Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk. We're going to take you to a live news conference being held by Cuyahoga County Executive Chris Ronayne. He has made it very public that he is hoping the Browns stay downtown and said the county, frankly, doesn't have the money to pay for a stadium, a domed stadium in Brook Park. Let's take you live to his comments now in the shadow of Brown Stadium.
Correspondence this weekend from Cuyahoga County leadership to the Cleveland Browns, to the Haslam Sports Group. Purnell Jones and I are going to talk about the contents of our communication. We're going to talk about the rationale for our communication. Before doing that, I want to take a step back, maybe take a moment of personal privilege that you might have too, about being a Browns fan, about being someone who's watched this team for decades. All of you have memories of the Cleveland Browns, and your memories of the Cleveland Browns, if you've been to the home games, are right here at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Personally, as a high school student, I sold ice cream outside of Cleveland Browns Stadium, then called Municipal Stadium. As a college student, I rolled tarps in Berea during training camps and during their practice sessions during the season. And been in and out of games, a fan, through the wins and losses. The stadium behind us is nearly 100 years old. Built in 1931, it's hosted everything. It's hosted a World Series. It's hosted the World Series of Rock. It's hosted the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame concert dedication. And yes, it's hosted the Cleveland Browns since the very beginning. Since Art Mickey McBride bought the team and hired a coach named Paul Brown, who modernized the game of football right here at Cleveland Browns Stadium. We've seen our players, your heroes and mine, heroes like Hanford Dixon, Bernie Kosar, Jim Brown, Otto Graham, Lou Groza, Leroy Kelly. You have your teams, you have your fans, you have your players that you watched, but they've been memories. History lives here at Cleveland Browns Stadium. So today, we want to address our position as county leaders on the Cleveland Browns Stadium and the future, because we think the future lives here in downtown Cleveland. Today is about beginning a campaign to keep our Cleveland Browns in downtown. We hope you'll join us. We hope you'll join us on the rationale that we've conveyed to the Haslam Sports Group in our letter Sunday. It comes down to two basic themes. The first, we have made significant investment in the downtown over the decades. Look around. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Great Lakes Science Center, the Hilton Hotel on whose grounds we are on today, and the Huntington Convention Center, to name a few. But many more hotels, restaurants, bars, small business owners who've invested in the downtown. Our first point is to protect and advance that investment, to reinvest in this place that matters. We also want to say to the city of Brook Park, you matter too. We have a great relationship with the mayor of Brook Park and Mayor Ed Orcutt and the Brook Park City Council. And we compliment you on your efforts. There's so much going on in the community between the airport and NASA and many other things. We love the city of Brook Park. So this isn't about Cleveland versus Brook Park. This is about downtown. This is about everybody's downtown. Whether you live in Warrensville Heights, or whether you live in Westlake, whether you live in Solon, or whether you live here in the city of Cleveland. This is about downtown. It's about protecting and advancing the assets we've invested in by reinvesting. The second point has to do with financial modeling. As county leadership, council president and I as county executive have a stewardship responsibility to protect the treasury of the citizens of Cuyahoga County and the tax dollars that they contribute to that. We believe, after analysis of the Cleveland Browns' proposal for Brook Park, that this dog doesn't hunt. We believe, after seeing their numbers and their projections, we do not believe that the financial modeling that's been presented to us works for our citizens and our taxpayers. There's too much exposure on a $1.2 billion public expectation. That's up double from the expectation here on a renovation for downtown. $2.4 billion, half of which would be asked as public expectation from the city of Brook Park, from Cuyahoga County, from the state of Ohio. But we're only here to speak of our concerns right now as county officials for Cuyahoga County. $600 million is too much to ask of us as the public, the taxpayers, and frankly, exposes the Treasury to risk and bond deflation in our ratings. So we think we have a simple solution. Come home. Come back to where you belong, in downtown Cleveland, where this stadium has been for nearly 100 years and where it has been for every Browns home game for the last 80 years. Come home. Come home to downtown Cleveland. Be a part of the build-out that's happened here. Be a part of the investment infrastructure that we've built toward, and be a part of the future. Yes, history lives here at Cleveland Browns Stadium, and we hope a future lives here with the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, Ohio at Cleveland Browns Stadium. I want to now introduce my council colleague, my colleague at Cuyahoga County, President of the Cuyahoga County Council, Pernell Jones Jr. After Pernell speaks, we'll take some questions from you, the press.
Well, again, thank you all for being here today. I stand before you speaking for myself with the county executive to voice our strong commitment and opinion for keeping the Browns in downtown Cleveland. Over the past week, the Browns have made clear their preference for building a new stadium in Brook Park. We sent this letter to the Haslams to first, be transparent, and second, to make our preference clear for keeping the Browns in downtown Cleveland. I would like to express my gratitude to the Haslams for all they've done for our community, and I sincerely hope to continue our strong partnership and relationship. While we understand the Browns have an obligation to the fans, we have an obligation to the Cuyahoga County taxpayers as well. We have existing financial responsibilities, and we need to keep these in mind. Renovating the downtown stadium will build on the many public investments that have already been made, such as our two other sports venues, entertainment like Playhouse Square, our Hilton Hotel, and our Huntington Convention Center. The county executive and I are united in our commitment to keeping the Cleveland Browns in downtown Cleveland for generations to come. Thank you.
Now we'll take some questions. Mark.
One for each of you. We'll start with you, Chris. You said the numbers don't work on the proposal of Park and the county. Have you done the same analysis of the mayor's proposal for the numbers on the renovation, including the city tax, which does run out in about 10 years and doesn't even cover the cost of renovation now? So wouldn't that mean we have to involve in the city tax increase?
The question has to do with the numbers, and that question went on through various aspects of those numbers. First of all, reiterating the projections that have been made by Haslam Sports Group for the Brook Park Dome Stadium, from our perspective, and humbly we say this, don't work for the Treasury of Cuyahoga County and for, most importantly, the taxpayers of Cuyahoga County. It's too much, and it's too much of an expectation from us. What's been presented to us by both the Cleveland Browns and the City of Cleveland is the presentation for the preservation renovation of the existing stadium is exactly half at $1.2 billion, and in that denominator of that algebra of what's expected of us, exactly half. So we get to a question that Mark asks about the City of Cleveland. We look forward to a future dialogue with the City of Cleveland about how we're going to model this, but we did not want to distract that conversation by being between here and there, between Brook Park and Cleveland. We want to get into that discussion now with the City of Cleveland. They've made a proposal last week. We've seen that proposal like you've seen. And we know that that's a starting point in a negotiation and a discussion. But that's for the city of Cleveland to talk through with the Haslam Sports Group. We want to join that conversation specifically about this site and decide upon what is the best financial pathway to get us here. Every analysis we've made thus far on Brook Park is the dog doesn't hunt. We're optimistic about a renovation strategy, and frankly, I'll tell you, there is also a plan, rendered images for downtown's stadium, which I think should be revealed to the public just as Brook Park was. We made a statement after their August 7th letter. We felt like we needed to publicly declare to the public where we're at.
Thank you for Council President.
So simply that.
No, I have a separate question
Okay.
for you. So, have you briefed your council members on what you two know, since really Chris's decision isn't as important ultimately as what council knows?
So I speak as the council president. Our colleagues are in direct communication with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have asked to speak to our colleagues, and they certainly have that permission. They don't need my permission to speak, and they have actively engaged the council members that have desired to learn more about what the Browns have to share. So yes. Our colleagues, they call me, they ask questions. We've talked. I talk to my colleagues regularly. It is important that the Cleveland Browns share in their own way how they feel with our colleagues, and they have taken advantage of that opportunity.
There's an old saying that numbers don't lie. But what did your gut tell you about whether the Cleveland Browns are going to stay at that stadium or move? Your gut, what did it say?
Harry, I was asked by Cleveland Browns leadership about why we wrote the letter, and the two major points we made in the letter had to do with maintaining the downtown investment, and the other was as it relates to the Brook Park model. My answer was, and as Purnell Jones and I have conveyed by way of the letter, that this is the place to invest and reinvest in here in downtown Cleveland. Again, not with any animus toward the Brook Park model, but this is one that works. So I was asked by the Haslam Sports Group, where do you think this thing should be? And I said here, and that's why we're conveying to you our point of view. Purnell and I both agree on that. And I can't, in a crystal ball, project where Haslam Sports Group is ultimately going to take the Cleveland Browns. We've been through this before. We've been through the drama of the late 90s. We're not saying that's going to happen, and they have never said that's going to happen, that a town would exit Cleveland, Ohio. And obviously, no one wants to see that happen in this region. We have heard conversations about other sites, perhaps even those outside of the county. And that's why we're saying today downtown matters. Downtown is everybody's downtown, from the communities across Cuyahoga County to the region of counties throughout Northeast Ohio. This place matters here in downtown. Every place matters, but for football, for history, and for the future, and to protect our investments, we need to see it downtown. The question has to do with the $2.4 billion number, and half of which is expected to the public. And again, we can only speak to the county's take, but we have been asked to entertain upwards of $600 million. $300 million in essentially an outlay of cash, and $300 million in bond issuance. On the issuance side, it concerns us. We have many other current projects going. The Central Services Campus, which includes the county jail, a future potential of the courthouse, all of which we bond out, all of which puts us in an exposed position. To consider another $300 million in bond exposure is not something that we're going to entertain. It's why we say that dog's not going to hunt. As it relates to downtown, we need to work further with the city of Cleveland and Haslam Sports Group on the possibility here. But what I want to bring up is that we need to think about three major sports teams in the downtown in the far-reaching future. We need to think about long-term leases with the Cleveland Browns, with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Cleveland Guardians. Those two matter. And so a conversation that needs to be had is, how do we, in this town, a town financially strapped, and I say town in the regional sense, how do we collectively assure a long-term future for 3 major sports teams? We're committed to that, and we need to have that conversation in the context of all 3 teams. But Kim, $2.4 billion is $2.4 billion, $1.2 billion is half as much. You do the math. We're ready to get into a conversation about the latter.
How the future is here for the Cleveland Browns. What future do you see for the fans if in fact it stays here?
Well, the greatest fan experience is what happens on the field, right? But we've had this conversation with the Haslam Sports Group about fan experience. We've heard about parking. We've heard about outdoor weather. We've lived with that for the 80 years of the Cleveland Browns. I've never seen someone not take their seat because parking was a problem. I've never seen someone not take their seat even in snow and rain. We're the AFC North. We're a team that, like the Baltimore Ravens, sorry to discuss them, that like the Cincinnati Bengals, sorry to discuss them, that like the Pittsburgh Steelers, sorry to discuss them. We have grit. That is actually a commonality. None of us have a dome, and all of us play football outdoors. Frankly, it's probably a competitive advantage for our team to host others who play indoors, but I'll leave that to Coach Stefanski.
Let me say this. There is a shared benefit to having the team right here in downtown Cleveland. We are all fans. I am a fan. I have grown up watching the Browns. My first was watching Bernie Kosar being taken in the supplemental draft. I'm a fan as well. But there is a shared benefit to the residents of this community, the taxpayers, the fans, the Cleveland Browns themselves, when they are downtown. We've experienced it with the Cleveland Cavaliers in Richfield Coliseum when you were that far away from the core. So being here benefits the bars, the restaurants, all the infrastructure that has been built right now. It is a shared benefit, and we have a shared responsibility. The Haslams have been incredible partners. This is the heart and soul of this town, the Cleveland Browns. They have an 8,000 person ticket waiting list with a filled stadium now. This is what they have done and what we the fans have done. And we want to protect that and continue to build on that right here in downtown. So we encourage them to stay in the ring with the leadership of Cleveland. And let's find a way to work it out and keep them right here in Cleveland.
Got Ken and got Peggy.
Yeah, let me get a quick
Go
one
ahead.
from the councilman first here, and next to you, Chris. Will you seek a resolution or some other collective statement of support for this campaign from your fellow council members?
Our colleagues, we all have a role to play. The mayor of Cleveland, Justin Bibb, is in negotiation now. The city of Cleveland has put out their thoughts. The Browns are reviewing it, asking additional questions. We are not in direct negotiation. We're here to share our thoughts. It is still with the mayor of the city of Cleveland. There's a role for us, but there is also a role for council. This council has proven itself in all of our other sports facilities when our time for passing legislation and voting and when it is time to make our presence known. That moment is not right now. It is for us to listen. Our colleagues are, and they are actively listening. Those that are here now have been listening to the Browns and their thoughts. That is where we are at this moment.
Ken, and then Peggy. Ken.
For a number of reasons, we've heard them, the Haslams have favored Brook Park over rebuilding this. They obviously want some kind of, year-round facility, development around it, the parking revenues, all of that. Are you concerned that this campaign may push them out of the county to a surrounding county or even beyond?
No, what we're asking our fellow citizens is to help make the case for why this downtown stadium matters. Again, it's iconic. It's been with us in history. It was the place of the first Monday night football televised game. It's the Goodyear blimp shot. You look at those other cities I mentioned. Cincinnati stayed on the river. Pittsburgh stayed in the Three Rivers. We'll stay on the lake. But we need to make that case collectively, the Haslam Sports Group. And we want to hear from our fans. We want to hear from those who've tailgated year in and year out, no matter the season record, in our municipal lots. We want to hear the case for support from our bar owners, our restaurant owners, our hotel owners. We want you to join us to make the plea for why history matters and we've got a future here. Peggy. Yes, we've talked to them. I've talked to them since sending the letter. I talked to them on Sunday afternoon. I mean, I leave that to the Haslams to express their point of view. Yeah. I'm sure Purnell and I agree on this, but I'll say it, and Purnell's got something to add. I mean, first, Purnell said it. We're grateful for the investment of the Haslams. We thank them for what they've done, whether it's with our Cleveland schools or whether it's other charitable nonprofits. They've been a charitable team around town, as has the organization of the Cleveland Browns. So we start with a premise of thank you. And all we ask now is for you to join us in a conversation about reinvesting in a place. Reinvesting in a place where we've invested billions of dollars within blocks of here for regional visitorship. Again, whether you're from Woodmere or Westlake, you visit the downtown as your downtown. And our out-of-town visitors who are here. I'm glad to see Tammy LeBlanc from the Hilton Hotel here today. The general manager was here. This place connects. This is about connectivity to the tourism and to the visitor and to the regional experience. And so you asked me a little bit about the Haslam's point of view. I can't answer that, but I can say to you, we hope they'll join the conversation, rejoin a conversation that frankly they helped get started about a lakefront vision for the future with the Browns on the lakefront. Oh, sorry, that was also asked by Mark. The syntax, as we understand it, the syntax is a relationship with the city of Cleveland, that it does not roll to Brook Park automatically. Sam.
Flip side of Ken's question, comments on the idea that the Brook Park proposal might be a ruse to maximize subsidies from the city and from the county for the lakefront renovation. Are you playing into their hands by this public campaign?
You want to answer that? We'll go back and forth. Again, we don't want to hedge on what any kind of motivation might be or what any kind of negotiation practice might be. All we want to state, and I think just sincerely from our point of view, as two elected leaders of Cuyahoga County, we want to see a reinvestment in a place where we've invested. And the modeling that we've seen thus far, the financials on the Brook Park model at $2.4 billion don't work.
I'll keep it simple. There's no ruse. The negotiations have been honest. The conversation we've had, it's been difficult. They've been strong on both sides, but there's been nothing that I would characterize as a ruse in any way.
County executive, you raised a moment ago the idea of protecting all three stadiums in their future. So is that raising a bed tax or sin tax? Because there really isn't that much time left. So what are you talking about?
The question has to do with the sin tax and the bed tax. I'll say a few things about it. One, we haven't had any conversation yet with the Browns specific to sin tax. I haven't. I don't know if Purnell has, but county, we have not. As it relates to the bed tax, I'll say this. It's complicated to consider an exclusive use of bed tax for one facility. Hotels like the one we're standing in, they pass the bed tax on to the customer, the consumer. This week we have one of the largest conventions in the nation here. That cost would be passed on, raising the rates at this hotel and every hotel in town to go to one single facility. Editorially, I don't think that's an appropriate use of the bed tax. If you want to talk bed tax for infrastructure, for tourism infrastructure, for transportation infrastructure, or anything else that matters, I think the single use of a bed tax doesn't work. As far as sin tax goes, we want to have a further conversation with the public about where we're at. We don't yet have all the numbers that we need to discuss the downtown model. Again, we lead with the idea that this place we've invested so much in, we need to reinvest in. And we lead with the idea that the model in Brook Park financially is too much. It doesn't work. But as to sources of financing for the future, we need to have a conversation with all three teams and the public about what that looks like. So I answered one of your two questions, which is about the bed tax. I think on sin tax, it's a little premature. Yep. Michelle.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that ask from the Browns? Because they haven't released about publicly, but what they have said indicates that they're looking at capturing new tax revenue created by the project and plowing them.
We have two concerns. One is with the projections themselves. They're essentially making projections that they're asking the county to take the risk on and to back the bonds on. If they fail, we fail. And we're not looking forward to that, and we can't do that. We can't put the Treasury of the taxpayer at risk. Secondly, as it relates to the numbers, they've used very round numbers, but those round numbers are big. $1.2 billion in public expectation is a bridge too far? We're going to take one more question. Yeah, Michelle. Or Kim. Michelle and Kim. Go ahead.
Are there other things? Oh, sorry.
Kim, go ahead.
Are there other, besides bond fees and reduced tax on people, the county has other assets, are amenable to any sort of assets that, working with them to develop assets around the stadium, like they wanted to do?
There are a multitude of state-enabled vehicles to help with public financing. New community authorities being one of them, community development authorities. The city of Cleveland, we understand, has traded some notes on those possibilities. We don't know about Brook Park in that regard. We're open to all kinds of public finance mechanisms. It's just got to be a deal that's fair to the public, where the benefits outweigh the costs. Michelle.
I was just going to say, the public, as you alluded to, has not seen the plans for renovating the stadium down here, but you have. What do you want them to know about this plan?
I've seen the plans. I think they're exciting in downtown and the lakefront connection. It relates to the city of Cleveland's lakefront plan. It's a plan I've worked on actually 20 years back. We've all been working toward the same thing. Build dense urban infrastructure for connectivity between assets. Tonight, a convention that's happening here will be at the Rock Hall. Tomorrow, it could be at Brown Stadium. The reality is we need to connect these dots that we've worked so hard to build. That infrastructure that we've put billions of dollars of investment in should not be pulled away piecemeal. We want it to stay together. We all know post-COVID-19 how precarious downtowns are, but this is a downtown that has a future, and we hope with the Cleveland Browns. Thank you for being here today. Council President, we could take some questions offline with you. Thank you again.
Dan DeRose with 19 News. The county executive, Chris Ronayne, and the council president, Pernell Jones, not mincing any words. There is no, oh, let's wait and see. No, they are saying it must be downtown, that the numbers don't add up. The county executive words are that dog don't hunt. Saying they looked at the numbers, and for the county to invest in Brook Park, it would be to the tune of $600 million, and saying that would be a reckless ask on behalf of county taxpayers. And so making it very clear that they have invested in downtown over a number of years, and they hope that the Browns continue to do so. Now, the county executive hinted that there are renderings of a redone downtown stadium, and he said those should be released just like Brook Park has been released. My guess, and this is the first we're hearing of that, my guess is that perhaps the Browns have some renderings of what a redone downtown stadium could look like. We will make that request if that is something the Browns have spent money on. That is up to them to release if they've been working with a firm, an architectural firm on that. It'll be up to them to release it. So not sure that we'll be able to see those, but we're definitely going to put it in an ask and see if we can get those. The county executive said that those should be made public as well as Brook Park. It's going to be an interesting battle, and it's a chess match that has heated up over the last 2-3 weeks. Different pieces moving. The county saying they're not at the negotiating stage, that it's really up to the city first and then to come to the county. But they wanted at least their opinion to be out there, and they want the public to weigh in on that fact. We have seen people on both sides, fans on both sides of the issue, people that have changed their minds, saying now they support a dome. But then, of course, you're going to have diehards that say absolutely not, that it should be a cold weather team and outside at Brown Stadium. We'll have a complete wrap up on this. Again, just the next piece in this chess match has been moved, and it's a long way from being decided. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be here on our digital platforms. Otherwise, look for our 3.5 hours of news to start at 3 o'clock on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a good afternoon.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CT